Hey y'all, Tom, ND3N here, and thanks for dropping into my Radio Shack for a Ham Shack chat. This time, we're going to go back and look at a few settings on the Yaesu FT-991A. In particular, we're going to look at those settings that are mode dependent, such as the audio voice mode, the CW, and digital modes. All of the discussed settings are in the video description for a quick review. I've also broken the major portions of the video into chapters, which you can also find in the video description. So, if you want to go back and review a specific set of settings, just click on the timestamp and our friends at YouTube will take you directly to those settings. The advantage of the FT-991A's mode-dependent settings, let me give you an example. If you use your rig primarily for digital modes, such as FT8, and also voice ragchews, by selecting your mode to either data USB or USB, the settings for each will be adjusted to optimize your enjoyment of those modes. This saves you time in having to adjust your settings when you change your modes. As always, if you have any questions, corrections, concerns, or just general remarks, please leave them in the comments.
And the comments say that my questions are too gossipy.
Also, please feel free to review the comments from other viewers and add your own 2 cents. In order to understand how to set the parametric microphone equalizer settings, you need to have an understanding of the human voice. So, in general, the fundamental frequency of the complex speech tone, which is also known as your pitch, or F0, lies in the range of 100 to 120 hertz for men. The F0 for women is found approximately 1 octave higher, or 200 to 240 hertz. And in children, you can expect an F0 of around 300 hertz. Now, all that said, the human voice is quite complex. It contains a lot of information. You've got harmonics happening, you've got emphasis happening at certain frequencies. And we call this intelligibility. Intelligibility percentage at the low frequencies, say below 250 hertz, is about 5%. That raises up steadily until you get to about 2 kilohertz or 2000 hertz, where it exceeds 30%. Then again, at the top end, 4 kilohertz and above, it rolls off back down to 8%. You want to set your parametrics or your intelligibility to reflect these levels. For your audio transmit settings, you want to go to menu number 119. That's the parametric equalizer frequency. This is the center frequency of the low-range parametric microphone equalizer. You can see I have that set at 200 hertz. That's the center frequency. Menu number 120 is the gain of the low-range parametric microphone equalizer. And I've got that set at a -9. All of these you're going to want to set for your own voice and your own system. I'm using the numbers recommended by Heil for the Heil headsets that I have. Menu number 121 is the bandwidth of the low-range parametric microphone equalizer. And you can see that you can set your bandwidth from 1 to 10. They put it in 10. I narrowed down my bandwidth a little bit and put it at 5. Scrolling down the menu items, you'll find we have menu items 122, 123, and 124, which are the center frequency, gain, and bandwidth of the mid-range parameters. I've set my mid-range at 900 hertz and my parametric equalizer level at a -3 with the same bandwidth of 5. Scrolling down again to 125, 126, and 127, I've set my frequency to 2200 because, as I mentioned earlier, the most important intelligibility band is right around 2000 hertz. So at 2200 hertz, I've got a +6 and a bandwidth of 5. Now scrolling down just a little bit more, you'll notice that these are labeled P parametric equalizer. And I've got those set the same that I set it previously for equalizer 1, equalizer 2, and equalizer 3. The difference here is these are used when you turn your speech processor on. I don't use a speech processor. You might find it handy, but I recommend being very, very conservative with how high you set the compression level. It should be no more than 10%. Above that, you start to sound like a CB radio trucker, and none of us want that. Thanks for sticking with this video so far. If you found it interesting and informative and maybe even a little entertaining, please take a moment to pop that thumbs up icon and give me a like.
You really like me.
Now we're going to move to the receive settings, and we're going to start with menu item 1, 2, and 3, which are your AGC fast delay, AGC mid delay, and AGC slow delay. In your functions, you'll find an AGC function, and you can select fast, mid, slow, or auto. In the auto, the rig will select the best AGC delay for the mode that you're in. AGC fast delay in auto is used for CW, FM, and data FM. AGC mid delay, shown there on 002, is used for RTTY, data LSB, and data USB. Menu 3 is your slow delay, and that's used for lower sideband, upper sideband, and AM. The numbers that you see reflected here, AGC fast is 300 milliseconds, mid is 700 milliseconds, and slow is 3000 milliseconds, are the factory default settings. You can adjust from here. However, it's recommended that you keep the factory settings until you get really familiar with your rig and have played with it for a while. Now, talking about functions again, I like to leave mine in auto and just let the rig do its work. You can press and hold that selection and it will turn AGC off. In these next settings, we're going to be talking about the voice modes and starting with AM, and you'll see a lot of repetition here. I don't use AM very often, but I have used it. The bandwidth required for a transmit AM signal is twice as large as required for a single sideband signal. It does tune better, and if you've got the range, go ahead and use it. You're going to set two parameters, which is your low cut and high cut info. On your low cut, you can select and go to whatever you want as the low. Remember, we're talking audio here, so I go with a very sharp slope. You can select your slope between 6 and 18 dB per octave. So I prefer a very sharp slope. The top end, I would take it down to no higher than 3000 and probably about 27 or 28. And again, your high cut slope should be a hard cut, meaning that anybody talking next to your band isn't going to bleed over. It's going to get filtered out. Now your mic select is next. So you want your AM mic select to be mic. And the selections are mic or rear. So since you're bringing it in the front mic panel, that's what you want to use. AM out level, I wouldn't recommend going any higher than 50. You can go as high as 100 if you want. Menu item number 102 starts us off with the discussion of SSB. You know that means single sideband, but a lot of people will also add suppressed carrier in that. Your AM signal actually has a carrier, which is why it's very easy to tune into. The single sideband takes only one of the sidebands, upper or lower, and also suppresses the carrier from the AM signal. It all starts off as AM. Now, I don't do a lot of voice work, just generally. And when I do, I use another rig. But if I'm looking to ragchew, these will be good ragchew numbers. First off, your low cut frequency will set to 100. And remember, we're talking about the audio. Now, this is not happening at the final audio processor. This is happening up in your IF section, but the results are seen with what comes out. So your rig is smart enough to know what to do at the IF to get these numbers out of the final audio. 102, I've got my low cut frequency set for 100. I've got that sharp slope again at 6 dB per octave. I've got my high cut frequency set to 3000 and again with a 6 dB per octave slope. Again, you want to set your mic select to the front panel, which will be mic. Your SSB out level, I don't know why I keep it that low, but again, anywhere from 50 to 100 is good. So I'm going to set mine at 90. PTT select, again, is used for the rear panel, as is the port select. The final thing in SSB that I want to talk about is your bandpass filter, which you can select right here. This is overall, and you've got several selections. So this is what I actually have it set to up above, but you can narrow it down, go 200 to 2800, 300 to 2700, or 400 to 2600. If you have a very busy channel, such as during a contest or something like that, you can narrow down your bandpass filter. For FM, you want to use your front panel again, and your FM mic select will be mic. You don't have any high cut or low cut because FM is a totally different mode, and what comes out comes out. You do want to set your FM out level. And again, I like using 50. You can go higher if you want, but remember you're talking a high duty cycle. So the higher your output is, the more strain you're going to put on your rig. Please help me get the word out about this and my other videos by sharing.
I'm telling everyone now.
With your friends and compatriots in the ham radio community, and especially on social media. Now we're going to discuss other than voice modes. These follow pretty much the same pattern that we had with the voice mode. The first one we're going to discuss starts at menu item 050. It's a CW low cut frequency, and we want to come up here. Remember, we're talking about the audio. So this would be what you have as your side tone set. My side tone is set to 750, so I want to go a little bit below 750, and we'll go 100 below and enter that. Again, we want a sharp slope. We want to set our high cut frequency to just a bit above, so we will turn that down, and since I'm on 750, we'll set that to 850, so 100 up and 100 down, and again we're going to set the slope to a sharp slope. Now you have your CW out level. That you can go ahead and run at a full 100, so that's what I'll set it at. The rest of these CW settings we will discuss in another video when I do a deeper dive. For data mode, to menu item 62, you have a selection of others or PSK. I prefer to use others, so we'll enter that. Now we're going to go down to menu item 66, where we have our low cut, high cut, etc. Now you can leave these off, which is fine because your computer does most of the stuff, but let's go ahead and set this to 100 Hertz on the low end, a slow roll off, and the reason I do that is because most data modes have a good hard set frequency band, so your computer takes care of that. On the high side, the high cut, we'll set that 3000, and again a slow slope. All of these things can be adjusted how you want it. Menu item 070, your data in select will be rear. You're using that in the rear. Now if you're bringing it into the rear, you can bring it in through the USB connection that you have, or you can bring it in through the data port. So you get to select here. I'm using the USB port. And our data out level, it's going to be a high duty cycle, so you don't want to go too hot. I like to use 50 and below. RTTY, or radio teletype, uses frequency shift keying, where you've got two tones. The mark is set to 2125, which is a digital 1. The space is a digital 0, and it is set to 170 Hertz above the mark. So you've got these two frequencies that are bouncing back and forth. And to keep things clean, you want to go up here as high as you can. So we'll set that at 1,000. And the lower frequency, the higher frequency, the space, we'll set down to about 2350 is good. I generally will go with a sharp slope, and these are 92, 93, 94, and 95. And the other slope is there at 95. So I like to get the side tones off. Again, remember, all of these settings are for your audio output. The adjustments are made in the DSP, which adjusts the IF section of your rig to output this down at the audio section of your rig. This is the RT Systems radio programming software main page, and there will be a link down in the video description. You start by picking out your radio over here, and you'll see there are a lot of them. We're going to go down to the bottom because they are alphabetical and select Yaesu. Now you got your selection up here, and we want to go to the HF radios, and we just scroll down till we find the 991A, which is right here. We'll select that, and we have some options. First off, you probably already have this cable. It is the standard cable that came with your rig, and if you need to, you can just shoot over to Wally World and pick up what they call a printer cable. So you can recognize that. So we don't need the programming software with the cable. So we're going to jump right here to the $25 option, which is the programming software only. Now we can scroll down again. We got some options. I'm going to go for the Windows OS electronic download. So that's what I would select and then add it to my cart. You can also get a CD if you want. You'll get the electronic download and you can get a CD backup. That'll cost you an extra $7.50. You can also get a Mac OS download if you run a Mac. We do not want to add the USB cable, but at this point just add it to your cart and then go through the checkout process. Part of the checkout process is you're going to put in your email address, and once you complete the checkout process, they will email you a code to actually make this software run on your rig. Once you have the RT System software downloaded, you can go ahead and run it. It'll go through an initial setup, which is pretty simple. The first thing that you want to do is come up here to Communications, click on Get Data from Radio. The reason for this is you know your radio is working well, and if something goes wrong during the program setup, and sometimes it does, and if you get totally stuck, RT Systems has a great customer service that will help you get unstuck. But this is going to be how your radio is currently set up. So you can always just go right back to this one, upload it, and everything will be fine. Down here, I've clicked on Communication and said I want to download from the rig. So you'll set your baud rate, select memory channels and menus. Once I click OK, you can see I'm going to start transferring the data. Just follow these instructions and you'll be fine. I am going to zap download, meaning that once it starts, you're going to see a progress bar, and it takes a little bit of time, and I don't want to spend a lot of time making you watch the progress bar, so I will be cutting out everything from the very beginning to the very end of the download. So now let's click OK. So that download took about a minute. You can see that it opened up this new FT-991A Untitled, and you'll notice that it's very similar to my default. Now that you've got this downloaded, what we are interested in is going to our settings. We're going to select Radio Menu Settings. You can set your main control buttons, and it is mode dependent. So you can have a different setting for SSB, CW. For example, under CW, I included the 0 in button. Don't really need that with any of these others. Now we'll go to the RxTX button,
And you can set up your parametrics. We already showed you how to do that hardwiring, but you can come in here and quickly tweak these. Go to operating modes. Again, each one of these is mode dependent, and we've been through what to set for all of these items. Instead of hand entering it menu by menu, you can just pop onto this operating mode tab and set up any or all that you want right in here. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to say apply changes and close. Now we are going to upload the changes that we've made. I'm going to click on Send Data to Radio. You'll see this pops up. Again, follow the instructions. Cat rate set to 9600. I'm going to be uploading memory channels and menus. Now, if you want to go faster, you could deselect memory channels because they haven't changed, but for demonstration purposes, we'll leave them both checked. And once again, once I click OK, our progress bar will pop up and I will be zapping out most of that progress bar. Now we got to the end, you'll see that we've got this pop up. We're going to turn our rig off, and this is just the power button on the front. You do not need to turn off your power supply. And I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to click OK, and all my stuff is now there. Future videos will include deeper dives into individual modes, some additional tips and tricks, and a run-through of the functions setting. So be on the lookout for those. 73 until the next Hey Y'all. As always, I'm at your service. I'm Tom, ND3N, and I am out.